The United States ignited a global trade war in April 2025. The Trump administration imposed sweeping tariffs on nearly all Chinese imports. This aggressive move sent shockwaves through the global economy. Businesses and economists alike braced for the fallout. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. The tariffs, covering hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods, targeted everything. From electronics to clothing, the cost of Chinese products skyrocketed for American consumers. This dramatic escalation of trade tensions marked a significant turning point in the US-China relationship. The world watched anxiously as the two economic giants locked horns. The implications were clear. This was not just a trade dispute, it was a battle for global economic dominance. The stakes were incredibly high for both countries and the rest of the world. The outcome of this trade war had the potential to reshape the global economic order for decades to come. The Port of Los Angeles, once a symbol of American economic might, became a ghost town. The usually bustling docks fell silent. Shipping containers piled up, untouched. The impact of the tariffs on Chinese imports was stark and immediate. The port, the busiest in the United States, saw a dramatic decline in activity. Ships carrying Chinese goods anchored offshore, waiting for a resolution to the trade war. The slowdown rippled through the entire supply chain. Trucking companies, warehouses, and logistics firms faced a sudden and severe drop in business. The Port of Long Beach, adjacent to Los Angeles and another major gateway for Chinese imports, experienced a similar fate. Cranes stood idle and the usual cacophony of commerce was replaced by an unsettling quiet. The economic pain extended beyond the ports, impacting businesses and workers across the country. This slowdown served as a stark visual reminder of the interconnectedness of the global economy. The trade war had choked off a vital artery of international commerce. The consequences were felt far beyond the docks of these major ports. American consumers started to feel the impact of the trade war in their wallets. Prices for everyday goods, from clothing to electronics, began to rise. The tariffs added a significant cost to Chinese imports, and businesses were forced to pass those costs on to consumers. The tariffs disrupted well-established supply chains. Retailers faced delays in receiving shipments from China. This led to shortages of certain products. Consumers encountered empty shelves and limited choices for some of their favorite items. The trade war created uncertainty in the market. Businesses hesitated to make long-term investment decisions. Consumers became more cautious with their spending. The economic anxiety started to take hold. The trade war was no longer an abstract policy debate. It was a reality that was impacting the daily lives of Americans. The US economy, already showing signs of slowing down, took a hit as the trade war escalated. The tariffs disrupted global supply chains, increased costs for businesses, and dampened consumer spending. This toxic combination led to a contraction in the gross domestic product, GDP. The manufacturing sector, heavily reliant on Chinese imports for raw materials and components, was particularly hard hit. Factories faced higher input costs due to the tariffs. This made their products less competitive in both domestic and international markets. The transportation sector also experienced significant job losses. With fewer goods flowing through ports, trucking companies and logistics firms were forced to lay off workers. The economic pain spread from coastal ports to manufacturing hubs in the heartland. The search for alternatives, US businesses navigate uncertain waters. Faced with rising costs and supply chain disruptions, American businesses began to explore alternative sourcing options. Southeast Asia emerged as a potential alternative to China. Countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia offered lower labor costs and a growing manufacturing base. However, shifting supply chains proved to be a complex and challenging endeavor. Building new factories, establishing relationships with new suppliers, and navigating different regulatory environments took time and money. The transition was far from seamless. Southeast Asian countries, while eager to attract foreign investment, lacked the scale and infrastructure to fully replace China as the world's factory. The trade war forced American businesses to confront the realities of a globalized economy and the challenges of decoupling from China. Retaliation and stalemate. China responds. Trade grinds to a halt. China did not stand idly by as the United States imposed tariffs on its exports. Beijing retaliated with its own tariffs on American goods. This tit-for-tat escalation of trade barriers plunged the two economic giants into a protracted trade war. The Chinese government targeted American agricultural products, particularly soybeans and pork, which were major exports to China. The tariffs dealt a blow to American farmers who relied on the Chinese market for their livelihood. The trade war reached a stalemate. Negotiations between the two countries stalled, and neither side seemed willing to back down. The global economy braced for a prolonged period of uncertainty and disruption. A world in flux, global trade routes redrawn, new alliances emerge. The US-China trade war triggered a reassessment of global trade relationships. Countries around the world adjusted to the new realities of a more fragmented and uncertain trading environment. The trade war accelerated the formation of new trade blocs and agreements. Countries sought to diversify their trading partners and reduce their reliance on the US and Chinese markets. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, a trade agreement between Pacific Rim countries that the US had withdrawn from, gained renewed momentum. The trade war also highlighted the strategic importance of alternative trade routes. China's Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure project aimed at connecting Asia, Europe, and Africa, gained greater significance as Beijing sought to reduce its dependence on traditional shipping lanes. The uncertain future of trade, navigating a world remade. The US-China trade war marked a turning point in the history of globalization. It shattered the illusion of a borderless world where goods and capital flowed freely. The trade war ushered in an era of heightened geopolitical risks and economic uncertainty. The future of global trade remains uncertain. Will the world retreat into protectionism and regionalism, or will it find a new path toward cooperation and open markets? The answers to these questions will shape the global economy for generations to come. The trade war served as a stark reminder that economic interdependence is not a guarantee of peace or stability. It can also be a source of vulnerability and conflict. The world is grappling with the consequences of this realization. The outcome will determine the future of global trade and the shape of the international order.